A very good morning to all my dear students. Once again, I welcome you back all on behalf of ICAI for today's second class on law, on companies law. So we have already started Companies Act last time, children, and we have understood the basic structure. We did the various case laws, how the case law which helps to define the separate legal entity concept. So meanwhile, I'm just taking your names for good morning wishes. I would be happy if you can tell me what was the leading name of the case law which helped to prove a Supreme Court judgment which led the decision that company is different and shareholders are different. So can you name the case law which defines the concept of separate legal entity? All right. So a very good morning, Mohammed B. A very good morning to you. Very good morning, P. Vishnu, Keshav Kothari, Ishan. Merchandise versus British. So Ishan wished, I'll just come on that. Let me just finish with this morning wishes and I'll explain you that case now. Ms. Dhwani Modak, Shalini, Kunal, Sonali, Anjana, Sahil, good morning children. Manvi, Chanchal, Vibhuhu, Rahul, Mr. MD, Jyoti, Asha. I'm so glad to read that you have revised what we have done in the last class. That's excellent. No doubts are there, Ms. Dhwani writes. Already revised everything. Very good. Rahul, Asha, Jyoti, Anu, Avdesh, Rekha, Ekta, Saurabh Karan, happy Hindi Divas to you as well. Gunshita, good morning, Ankit. Doctrine of caveat emptor, Mrs. Sheetal Kumari. So today we'll finish the second class of company law and day after tomorrow the third class. After that, I'll give you last 10 minutes. Then you can ask me the queries related to other acts. Okay, child, not in between the company law. I cannot take you into sale of goods. Shivani, Abhinav, Keshav, Rahul, Tanishka, Miss Panchar, Hartendra Kumar, Swati, Arshdeep, Gareja, Pratindya, Sarvasv, Chandrika, Tejashri, good morning, children. So answers have started coming. So Mohammed Hassan, good morning, Ustad. Anuj, Saurabh, Karan is the first one to send me the correct answers. Excellent, all of you. Regu, Chandrika, Manvi, Gunchita, Sheetal, Gunjan Devi, Shivani, Ustad. The name of the case law is absolutely correct. Salomon versus Salomon and Company Limited. Salomon versus Salomon nahi hai, Salomon versus Salomon and Company Limited. Ekta Tiwari says, ma'am, Makora versus Northern Assurance, that was also one of the case laws which helped us to understand the separate legal entity concept. But yes, right, Khushbu, Chanchal, Siri Govari, all of you are right, children. Gareja, Bhargavi, Ronit, Priya Darshni, good morning, children. That Salomon versus Salomon has proved the concept of separate legal entity. Sarvas, correct. All right. Abhinav Kumar is saying, ma'am, Hindi Divas hai, to Hindi mein hi class le do. Beta, fir what about those students who don't understand Hindi? We can't be so rude and cruel to them. So we have to take care of the entire lot sitting in front of me. Good. Ziva also says, ma'am, no doubts, have revised everything. Excellent. Yes, Miss Anjana, that's correct. Amit, Samriti, Rohini, all of you are correct. Kushti. Good, children. So I'm glad that we started the class with a small test and you all have answered the question correct. So Sheetal Kumari is saying Workmen Association, that was one of the exceptions of corporate bail theory, child. Mrs. Sheetal Kumari, that was the case law in which it was held that the compensation means the bonus which we were talking has to be paid to the workers, and the company was actually floating their profits in another subsidiary company just to deflate their profits so that they cannot show any profits in the books of accounts. Therefore, they were not paying bonus to the workers. The law says if any legal obligation is not being met, then corporate bail will be lifted and company and shareholders will be treated as one. The same case law which one of you was asking in earlier also. So it has the same application that if you are avoiding any legal obligation, then corporate bail will be lifted and hence you will be held entitled to compensate the workers. You cannot take the exemption of corporate bail theory and say that we will not pay the money just because it's my company's fault. So this kind of shield is not given as a protection to those who are trying to avoid their legal obligations. All right, good children. So today we have a very interesting topic further in the chapter. So everything was explained to you about Amendment of Companies Act 2013, We have done the definitions, applicability, features as well. Makora versus Northern Insurance. Remember, company does not have any insurable interest. Also, you cannot be had by a member in the company. And the separate legal concept of corporate bail theory was laid in Salomon versus Salomon and Company Limited. So this is the separate legal entity concept. Lifting of corporate bail was discussed with you. All the case laws have been discussed with you. Guilford, Motor, Denshaw. Now we are going to start with a very new concept of classes of companies. Classes of companies, children, means types of companies. So today we'll be discussing each and every type of company. There are recent amendments, children, which were made in 1st April 2021. So we did those amendments for the last examination, May 22 also, and for the examinations of November 21 also. Now the latest study material, which you all would have received, it has already incorporated those amendments. So you need not refer to the, like you would have done the amendments in LLP also. The amendments which came in company were 1st April 2021 have already been amended in the online study material as well. So anyone who is having a previous study material, you can refer to the online study material. It is the updated one. You don't have to go and search for the amendments. It is already there in your books as well. So the classes of company on the basis of incorporation and on the basis of liability. So first, let us understand the meaning of on the basis of incorporation. Remember last time you all told me, ma'am, registration of partnership is not compulsory. Yes, completely agreed. It's optional. You can get it registered only to avail those 4 to 5 benefits in case of partnership. However, in company, I told you it is must to get it incorporate. So what is the meaning of incorporation? We have full-fledged session on how the registration of companies happens. There are promoters who come and sit and discuss, come up with the idea of opening a company. Till the time you have just come up with the idea of opening, say for example, you and me, we have decided that let's open a company of manufacturing water bottles. So now we have just come up with an idea. So we all are known as promoters. Now we will be making a memorandum, the rules and articles, everything. We'll be signing the memorandum of association and we'll go to the registrar of companies and we'll file the application along with all the other documents that please incorporate a company. So incorporation basically means setting up of a company, getting it registered with the registrar of companies. So on the basis of incorporation, it says one are the incorporated companies, one are unincorporated companies. If you're referring to the study material, like unincorporated companies will come. Unincorporated companies means you and me, we met on a cup of coffee again, or you want to meet on a cup of tea. So we all met on a cup of coffee and we decided that, okay, Harleen ma'am, now we're going to open a company and let's open up a company of manufacturing water bottles. So we were promoters of the company. We were coming up with the great ideas and everything. Business plan was made. All those flow charts, PPTs, everything was discussed among us. But we never went to the registrar of companies to get it incorporated. हमने वो company शुरू ही नहीं करवाई, incorporate हुई नहीं, बनी नहीं, set up ही नहीं हुई. So those are unincorporated companies which just have an idea, but they're not actually existing. They're not actually running. So on the basis of incorporation, we further have registered companies, those companies which have got themselves registered with the registrar of companies. So all the companies are basically known as registered companies. Whenever you open up a company, whether you're opening OPC, whether you're opening a public company, whether it's a private company holding subsidiary, whatever is your company, it has to get registered with the registrar of companies. Registration is compulsory in case of companies. The way it was compulsory in LLP, it is compulsory in companies as well. Statutory companies, remember last time we discussed the applicability of Companies Act to Insurance Act, insurance companies, banking companies. So these are all statutory companies, the companies which are governed by their separate legislation, their separate statute. So ICAI is governed by their ICAI Act. Insurance companies are governed by IRDA Act. So इनके सबके अपने अलग-अलग act है, so they are known as statutory companies. They are also incorporated companies. They also have to get themselves registered. And chartered companies are example, East India Company, they are no longer into existence. So we don't have to go much in detail of chartered companies. They are no longer into existence. Only the basis of incorporation. You have to remember 3 registered, those which are registered. Chartered companies are the old companies. They no longer exist. And statutory companies are the companies governed by the respective legislation or the statute. Khatam ho gaya. The most important type of companies are on the basis of liability. Now you all remember, children? Yes, Miss Tanishka Kumari, Makora versus Northern Insurance can also be taken as an example of separate legal entity. All right. Thank you, Mr. Harshit Bhutani. I'm so glad to know that. Miss Bhavna, Asha. All right. Good morning, children. Himanshu Pathak is asking, artificial, they have written, it cannot be. Okay, Himanshu, when we go to the study material, that time you remind me about this page number. Right now, I cannot see it anywhere around. All right. So yes, somebody was saying Makora versus Northern Insurance can also be taken as an example of separate legal entity, Miss Tanishka. The only thing is I was specifically asking about that leading corporate bail theory case law. So Salomon versus Salomon is a leading case law Supreme Court judgment which held that company is different from its shareholders. Ustad Singh is asking, ma'am, can you take up Guilford Motor Company versus Horn? So child, in Guilford Motor Company, the only thing that you have to remember is that there was an employee, Mr. Horn. He made an agreement with Guilford Company that after leaving his company, he will not open up a company and similar kind of company, but he opened the same competitive kind of business and he was trying to attract the customers of his previous employer. So law says if you're doing any such kind of thing, it is not done. This is a kind of a fraud. You now, Mr. Horn knew about the loopholes of the company he was working with. उसने उसके customers ही चुरा लिए, business छीन रहा है उससे, same type of business कर रहा है. तो लॉ ने कहा, हॉर्न ने कहा कि मैं नहीं कर रहा, मेरी कंपनी कर रही है, आप प्लीज उसको बोलिए. So that law, then court held that in such a case, you and your company will be treated as one. कंपनी खुद तो नहीं ना जाकर मार्केट में ऐसे बिजनेस कर रही, वो तो आपका मास्टरमाइंड है behind the company. Okay, so those who were asking in Hindi also, I hope now Guilford and Motor Company and Horn is clear. Okay, companies only in thought. Yes, Harshit, that's correct. They are unincorporated company. Statutory means something given by law. That's good. Okay. So Ishan wished the other references of the case laws which are given are only talking about the same concept. You can learn the case laws which we have discussed in the class. Other names, if you can remember, you can remember. Otherwise, you can simply remember the information that we have discussed in the class. Already, Sean? Okay, now on the basis of liability. On the basis of liability, we have three categories of companies. Ab chhod do usko, queries wale ko chhod do, because this is a very important concept. First, pay attention and then we'll go and have a discussion over there. So on the basis of liability, children, I told you that in case of partnership, the liability was, okay, tell me. What is the liability of partners in under Indian Partnership Act? What kind of liability we have learned in case of Indian Partnership Act? Was it a limited liability? Was it an unlimited liability? What kind of liability have we learned under Indian Partnership Act? Excellent, ma'am. It's unlimited liability. Miss Priyanka, you are asking chartered companies. I told you the companies which existed long ago, now they are no longer into existence. So you simply have to remember the incorporated companies are the companies which are registered. So registered companies is the basic this part of the incorporated companies. Very good, Manvi, Arshdeep, Raghav, Harshit, Gunjan, everyone is correct. Samriti, Ziba, Nilhal. It's unlimited company in Indian Partnership Act. Very good. Hadiya, that's correct. Shivani, Anjana, Surya Kumar, Bhavna, Bhargavi, Keshav, Sonali, Sanjana, everyone is correct. Chanchal, that's correct. So now that's the reason when we shifted from Indian Partnership to LLP just to have a limited liability. But now since we have decided in the last class that we're going to do a business at a large scale, so we opened up a company. Now the first category of company is the company limited by shares. So there can be two types of limited companies, companies limited by shares and company limited by guarantee. So company limited by guarantee are generally the companies which are formed by, fees, donation, a charitable kind of organizations which are not going to run on the basic business motive. So there you have the company's liability becomes limited by the guarantee. So what is the meaning of limited by guarantee means? Say for example, Harleen ma'am, Mohammed Hassan and Priyanka. Three of us has formed the company. So Priyanka gave a guarantee that whenever there will be liability, I will be liable only up till 10,000 rupees. Harleen ma'am said I will be liable only for 5,000 rupees. And Mohammed Hassan was the third one shareholder. He said I will be liable for 15,000 rupees. Now, in the event of winding up or the liquidation, what does it mean? That means in case of company limited by guarantee, only when the company is coming to an end, these three shareholders who are the shareholders of the company who have given a guarantee can be invited to pay off the liability of the outsiders. So what is liability? Basically, the money that we need to pay any business done on behalf of the company. So you have outstanding creditors whom the payment needs to be made. So now, who was the person who has become partner with us? Miss Priyanka will pay liability up till 10,000. I will pay liability up till 5,000, and Mohammed Hassan will pay liability only up till 15,000. Even if your liability that needs to be paid is 1 lakh rupees, we will not be allowed to bring beyond this 30,000 rupees. This is only the liability which we have granted. The balance 70,000 has to be paid from the company's assets. So this is the privilege, this is the benefit which is given to company limited by guarantee. Means जितनी मैंने guarantee दी है उतना ही मैं liability में contribute करूंगी, उसके beyond नहीं करूंगी. This is the meaning of company limited by guarantee. Generally, the company which are related with a charitable or donation kind of purpose are known as company limited by guarantee. Okay. So I am not reading the queries as of now, Sakaldeep and Saurabh. First, let me complete and then we go to your queries. Okay. So limited by guarantee, everybody has understood. Now let us understand limited by shares. There is a very important case law also from the study material. We'll just do it in a while. So first, let us understand the meaning and definitions of these companies. What is the meaning of company limited by shares? So company limited by shares means that you can be invited to pay the liability of the company only till the amount which is unpaid on the shares. What did I say? You can be invited to pay the liability only for the balance which is left to be paid. So say for example, Mr. A is a shareholder in a company and he has taken up 5,000 shares in this company. And the share price was rupees 10 per share. Now let's assume Mr. A has already paid rupees 8 per share. So how much is the paid up capital? That is 40,000 rupees. He has already paid in that company. All right. So now what will happen? That rupees 2 is the unpaid amount of share. Now, whenever the liability will arise, Mr. A can be invited to pay balance rupees 10,000, which is pending. That is 5,000 shares he has taken in the company. How much is the amount unpaid on the shares? Rupees 2. So now Mr. A can only be invited to pay the balance amount, which is unpaid on his shares. So if rupees 2 were unpaid, 5,000 shares, 10,000 is the liability for which Mr. A can be invited to pay for. Say, for example, the liability of the company is rupees 1 lakh. Can Mr. A pay beyond 10,000? Answer is no. He will only and only pay rupees 10,000 because there is a restriction on his liability. His liability is limited. Had it been part of unlimited company, then Mr. A will pay 10,000 out of his shares and also from his personal assets if it would have been an unlimited company. But where the company is limited by shares, you will not pay beyond 10,000, which is in our example, rupees 2 unpaid amount shares, so you will be paying 10,000. However, in case of guarantee company, all those people, Priyanka, Harleen and Mohammed Hassan, will pay the amount that we have guaranteed to. What happens in unlimited companies? So now my question goes to my students. If there are 3 shareholders, A, B and C, they have contributed capital of different amounts and the liability of the company is rupees 1 lakh. Say for example, each one of them has paid the liability for rupees 30,000. How will you settle the 70,000 rupees balance? In case it's an unlimited company, how will you dispose of it's 1 lakh liability that needs to be paid, and in unlimited, all the shareholders are liable up till the unlimited amount. So I told you they have already recovered the money. They have already paid for 30,000 rupees. How will you recover the 70,000 rupees? Yes, Manvi Khanna, it applies to all the shareholders. Saurabh, current for registered companies, they're further divided into companies limited by shares, guarantee, and unlimited companies. And these companies are further divided into public and private company. When I open the study material, I will show you the bifurcation. Sakaldeep, the same answer for you. We'll do it from the study material as well. Okay, Raghav Shah says equally they will be contributing. Okay. To pay off the debts, very good, Priyanka. Their personal assets will be used. MD is also correct. Equal amount to be paid. Ishan, Vish, why are you saying equal amount to be paid by partners? We are members, we are shareholders. Partners, partnership mein the. Monu Singh is also wrong by saying partners. Will be divided among all three members. Okay, Harshit, by realizing the assets. So none of you said that first we'll try to dispose of the company's assets, and after that, still if anything is left, will be paid from the personal assets of the shareholders. Very good. All of you are correct. Keshav Thakur, it is not partner, it is member. Bhargav, Ustad, Avinash, Anjana, Lisa, Lakshita, Bhumika, Asha, Khushi, all of you are correct. Hridiya, Kunal, Saurabh, Abhinav, Sonali, Arshdeep, Manvi, Bhavna, Fatimathul from the personal assets, correct. Gareja, all of you are correct. Very good. Himanshu Patak, nice. So let me take you to the study material. Unlimited liability, unlimited companies was very much easy and clearer to all of you because it's very, very simple. So let us see the type of companies that we are doing right now. All right. So the latest study material, children, if you'll see, they have removed the concept of incorporated companies because basically the incorporated companies are the registered companies. I just showed you in my presentation, so you can remember it from there. Chartered companies are no longer existent, so they have removed the name. So I'm glad that they have removed the name because they no longer exist. So it was just an additional information which was given. But still the information of public and private is also missing. This needs to be learned by you children. What does it mean? That all the incorporated companies are either divided into company limited by shares, company limited by guarantee, and unlimited companies. And this is the category of company which is further divided into public or a private company. Company limited by shares can also be a public company or a private company. Unlimited companies can also be a company, private company or a public company. So it is just a broader information. Say a company may be incorporated. So this is the meaning of incorporation. Incorporation का मतलब ही simple होता है कि register होना, set up करना. It can be incorporated as one-person company, private company, or a public company, depending upon the number of members joining. So if one person is joining, it will be one-person company. If minimum 2, private company, and minimum 7, then it's a public company. It may be unlimited company, limited by share or guarantee. So either you can write it in the tabular information like this, or you can simply read this line. It says company limited by shares. I will just write it for all of you. Company limited by shares can further be a private company or a public company. Similarly, company limited by guarantee can also be a private company or a public company. And unlimited companies can also be private company or a public company. So this chart was given earlier in the study. Now they have removed this, but they have written it in the statement that the companies can either be unlimited, limited by shares. The public-private companies can further be divided into this broad category. On the basis of control, so he's trying to tell you what are the basic information he's giving you. On the basis of control, the companies can be associate, holding, or subsidiary. And the further classification can be government, small companies, nidhi companies, and companies formed for charitable objects are very, very important companies. They are known as Section 8 companies. मैम हमने ये सारी कंपनीज लर्न करनी है. हाँ जी, आपने ये सारी कंपनीज लर्न करनी है. Those who are asking this questions. Okay. So now we have already started with the first category of company on the basis of liability. So this is the first category that we're doing. Company limited by shares, sections. Remember if you can, otherwise not compulsory in case of foundation. You can read the sections also. It says the liability is defined in the memorandum of association. Very interesting point. So company limited by shares, where is it defining its liability? It says it is limited in its memorandum. So it's simply telling you that MOA will tell that this is a company which is limited by shares, and any unpaid amount of the shares shall be paid whenever the liability needs to be paid. So the liability of the members is limited only till the unpaid amount of shares. We just did that example. Remember that example. His separate assets will not be encompassed, means he will never be required to bring in his personal assets. So if there are 10,000 shares held by Mr. A and the shares are for rupees 10 per share, he has already paid rupees 5 per share. So how much is the paid up capital? 5,000 rupees. Now the unpaid share is rupees 5 again. Balance is the unpaid share. Now my question to my dear children is, if the liability of the company is 25,000 rupees, how much will be contributed by Mr. A? If the liability of company is 25,000 rupees, Mr. A will contribute how much? Mr. A needs to bring in something from home, or how much he has to pay? Mr. Soham Patel, company with 7 members is a public company minimum condition. Private company can also have 7 members. There is no restriction of 7 members. I will teach you how much is the restriction in private company. Very good, Harshit, Kunal, Manvi, Varda, Manu Singh, Devesh, Kunal, Gareja, Saurabh, Lisa, Sair, Himanshu, Harshit, Pratindya. Why are you writing again and again, Harshit? Your answer is correct, 5,000. Very good, Himanshu. 5,000 will be brought in by A because it's a company limited by share. And his liability will cease to be a member, Manvi Khanna. This is unlimited liability. Again, you have jumped further. Lakshita, you are wrong. Pratindya, you are wrong by saying 10,000. Only 5,000. Bhavna is also wrong, 10,000. Anushka is wrong, 10,000. 5,000 is the correct answer. So children, yes, Rajesh, it's correct. He will give only the amount. Yes, Saima, that's correct. Surya is correct. Asha is correct. Anu is correct. So children, only 5,000 rupees will be contributed by Mr. A. Why not 10,000? Because 5 rupees he has already paid. Unpaid shares are invited in case of company limited by shares. And how will the balance 20,000 will be made? Mr. A's personal assets will never be required to be paid. Only the company can recover it from the company's assets. Company's liabilities will only be made from the company's assets. Shareholder is a co-owner. He is not co-owner of the company's assets. Ownership is with the company because company is a legal person. Therefore, company will dispose of its assets and pay off its balance liability. Now, in case of company limited by guarantee, again, the point number 1, memorandum will define. Company limited by shares में भी कहाँ पे लिखा था? Memorandum में लिखा था हमने कि कितना amount pay करना है. Guarantee की amount कहाँ लिखी जाएगी? It will be written in the MOA of the company that it is a company limited by guarantee, and this is the respective amount undertaken by the members to be paid. So in our example, we undertook 10,000, 5,000, 15,000. So whatever amount you have decided, it will be mentioned in the memorandum. Here, his liability is limited only for the stipulated sum, means the amount which you have agreed. Only the agreed sum that you have decided to pay in the memorandum, only that much amount will be paid, cannot be called beyond this. And only in the event of winding up. Second point क्या है? Company limited by guarantee में सिर्फ जब company बंद होती है, wind up होती है, only at that time members will be required to contribute towards the liability of the company. It says, what are the common features, ma'am? Common features of guarantee and share capital company is that both of them have their liability is limited. One is limited on the unpaid amount on the shares, and others is limited up till the amount they have agreed. And memorandum is the place where their liability needs to be mentioned. Where do we need to mention? We mention the limited liabilities in the memorandum of association. So what is the difference in both the points? The only difference between both of them is very important. In case of company limited by shares, you can be required to pay the liability anytime during the company's lifetime or even winding up. However, in case of company limited by guarantee, later company means jo company limited by guarantee hai, in that case only on the winding up you will be required to pay the money. So you can write down in your own words, company limited by guarantee. In case of company limited by guarantee, the members are required to contribute towards the liability. The members are required to contribute towards the liability only in the commencement of winding up of the company. Winding up of the company means when the company is coming to an end. Only at the time of winding up of the company. However, in case of company limited by shares, the liability of members can be invited. Any time during the company's lifetime or during its winding up. Any time during the company's lifetime or during its winding up. And third point of difference kya hai? Guarantee company does not raise its working capital from its members. Are we inviting the shares? No. You're not inviting the shares. No working funds are needed. You only raise your money from endowment, fees, charges, donations. So charitable kind of institutions hote hain where you have a company limited by guarantee. You are not asking the share capital. It can be a limited company by guarantee can have share capital also, but generally you do not raise the initial working capital. Initial means जो आपकी शुरुआत है कंपनी जो फॉर्म होती है, initial capital is always raised from fees, charges and donations. Now Narendra Kumar Agarwal versus Saruj Mallu is a very important case law. Why it is important? Because it's a Supreme Court judgment. Ma'am, do we need to remember the name of case law? No required. But yes, you should know what the case law is basically telling you. Now it says Supreme Court said that rights of guarantee company to accept the transfer of member of his interest is on different footing. Simple line that you have to remember is membership of a guarantee company carries certain privileges which are different from the ordinary shareholders. There can be a company which is having a share capital also. And at the same time, it's a company limited by guarantee. There is a company ABC Limited, which is a company having the share capital also. So when you're having the share capital, the shareholders' liability is limited by shares. And it is a company limited by guarantee also. So this simple case law, Narendra Kumar Agarwal says, wherein it is a company which is limited by shares and guarantee both, in that case, first the shareholders will pay their unpaid share amount, and still if any liability needs to be paid, the guarantors needs to be called only after that. So let's assume an example, the unpaid share capital. Let's take an example. The liability of a company was, liability of ABC Private Limited is rupees 1 lakh, and the amount which is unpaid on the shares is rupees 50,000, and guarantee at the same time it's a company limited by guarantee also. Guarantee given by A, B and C shareholder was rupees 5,000 each. Now, how will you recover the liability? First, unpaid share capital will be used. That is 50,000 rupees. So first shareholders will contribute 50,000. Balance 50,000. We will use 15,000 rupees of guarantee money. And how will you pay the balance amount which is still left? So there is still amount of 35,000 rupees which needs to be paid, will be paid from the company's assets. Balance 35,000 will be paid from the company's assets. Why? Because it's a company limited by shares and guarantee. Now, what he is trying to teach you over here is, let's suppose this amount which is unpaid on these shares, please correct the spellings on your own because we don't have so much time. So I still try to write the example so that you can remember. Now I'm changing the example, children. Let's assume the amount unpaid on these shares is 1,10,000. When you invited the unpaid share capital, then it was 1,10,000. Then we will use entire 1 lakh will be recovered from this unpaid share capital. Nothing will be invited from the guarantee amount given. So it says we simply have to see, in case of a company limited by shares and guarantee both, you will use the unpaid share capital amount first, and if required, then only guarantee money will be required to be called from the shareholders. And if the unpaid amount on the share capital collected is rupees 90,000, then pay 90,000 and 5,000, 5,000, 5,000 guarantee which was given. Each member should contribute in proportion to the balance amount. So 10,000 amount is still left, divided by 3. How much amount is required will be contributed, because they will not contribute more than 5,000 each. So this is simple line that you have to remember is, in case of a company limited by shares as well as guarantee, first we will use the amount unpaid on the share capital, and then if any liability is still left, then the amount of guarantee will be used. So this is the privilege, this is the benefit which is given to the company limited by guarantee. Samajh aa gaya sabko? Unlimited companies, the company not having any limit on its liabilities. It ceases when he ceases to be a member. Very interesting. ABC Private Limited a company hai. Mr. A is a shareholder and his liability is unlimited. In Jan 2022, Mr. A left the company. Will he still be liable for the debts which are due today? Say, for example, on September 2022, the liability of the company is rupees 1 lakh. Can you still ask Mr. A to pay off the liability? Definitely no. You cannot say that it is for lifetime. It is only till the time you are a member in a company. Ceases to be a member means when he is no longer a member. Ceases to be a member means the liability ceases, means it's come to an end when you leave the company. So if Mr. A has left the company in Jan 2022, he will not be liable for the debts due today. Samajh aa gaya? Somebody was asking the meaning of ceases to be a member means when you have left the company, then you are no longer liable. But an unlimited company means your personal assets are also liable. The creditors can pursue for the winding up of the company. Official liquidator is appointed means the liquidator, when the company goes into winding up, जैसे हम insolvency में official assignee is adopted, liquidation में official liquidator is appointed. He will dispose of the assets and liabilities of the companies and will pay off the liabilities. Here it is unlimited, therefore personal assets of shareholders can also be used. Liability will extend to whole of the company's assets and liabilities, and also if the company has share capital, articles will state the share capital. Here the liability is mentioned in the articles of association. So in case of company limited by shares and guarantees, memorandum of association mentions the amount of liability. Unlimited company में कहाँ लिखा होता है liability? Articles of association will state the amount of share capital and the liability. समझ आ गया? Here you are not only just the company's assets are to be used, personal assets can also be used. Simply you will learn this small diagram. There is no limit on the liability. Liability ceases when he ceases to be a member means once he leaves the company, he is no longer liable. Liability is not limited unlimited till the time the company is not wound up. So again, unlimited company में winding up के time पे ही liability arise होगी, not during the lifetime. You are required to contribute towards the liability and debts of the company only in the winding up. Members can be called to contribute only in the event of winding up. ABC Private Limited is a company. It's already running. It's winding up in September 2022. Then you will be called to pay off the liability. If it was running till September 2022 and in April you're calling, it is not done. Only in the event of winding up means जब company बंद हो रही है, खत्म हो रही है, तभी members को कहा जा सकता है to dispose of your assets and pay off the liabilities. Liability extends to companies' assets and liabilities, and also the contribution can be claimed from the members. इसका मतलब होता है personal assets are also liable. This line means personal assets of shareholders can also be used. समझ आ गया सबको? I hope company limited by shares and guarantees clear. Very good. Those who have been sending answers along. Manvi Khanna, because there is a liability of the members that will be utilized first, and balance, if any, company's assets can be used to pay. Harshit, when we discuss about the share capital, there you can understand the meaning of these different types of capitals. Don't get confused with the uncalled capital. This is simply the paid up capital and the amount which is balanced to be paid on the shares. So remember that example of rupees 10 per share and 8 paid. Thank you, Bhumika and Vibhuhu and others, Ziba and all, everyone who has written. It's crystal clear. Thank you so much. Abhinav Kumar, chartered companies ko chhod do. They have removed it from the study material also, no longer required to be done. Yes, Mr. MD, that's correct, the example that you've written. Mr. Vipul Gupta, in the case law of company limited by guarantee, you simply have to remember that benefit is given to the company which is limited by guarantee. First, we will be using the amount which is unpaid on the shares, and if required, we will be using the guarantee given by the members. Siri Guwari, now you're asking what is the meaning of unpaid shares? We did it right now in the example, the amount which is not paid on the shares. So if you have taken up 5,000 shares in the company and the value of share is rupees 10 per share, let's assume you have paid rupees 7 per share. So now your paid up capital will be 5,000 into 7, that is 35,000 rupees. And the balance rupees 3, that is 5,000 into 3, 15,000 is the unpaid amount. So now whenever the liability will arise, you will be liable to pay only up till rupees 15,000. Clear हो गया? फटाफट से OP से शुरू करते हैं हम. Okay, thank you, Anjana and Lakshita. Thank you so much. Yes, Mr. Soham, definitely. Even if today you start learning and preparing, then also it will be done. Don't worry. The only thing is you have to be consistent and keep revising your concepts. Ab chhod do please queries ko. Okay, yes, Mr. Coppola, you can call it that as well. One person company, very important concept. All the eyes and ears here on the screen, and then I will give you time for the queries after this as well. Companies Act 2013 introduced a new class of companies which is known as, which can be incorporated by a single person. So I told you in the last class also, children, now you don't have to request another person that please come with me because there is a requirement of a private company to have minimum 2 members. So I cannot open up a company. I will always have to request that please Mr. A or Mr. B so and so please join with me because I want to open up a private limited company. Minimum 2 members to chahiye hi hote hain. Or I was interested to open a large scale public company, then minimum 7 members are required. So if I am sitting alone and I don't want any botheration of anyone else, can't I open up a company? Law says 2013, government thought a lot. There might be single people who have so much of entrepreneurship knowledge, they have good skills, they have the good corporatization in the world, they want to do the business all alone. then why not we should give them encouragement and allow them to open up a company as one person also. So now there is no restriction on you that you have to call another person. This uncle with suit, boot and holding a specs and holding a bag in his hand can alone also go and incorporate a company. आप एक बंदा अकेला भी कंपनी बना सकता है. तो आप बोलोगे मैम वो तो हम सोल प्रोप्राइटर में बिजनेस कर ही रहे थे. पहले दिन से आप लोग पूछते आ रहे हो ना मैम व्हाट इज ओपीसी एंड व्हाट इज सोल प्रोप्राइटरशिप. आप समझो, जब आप सोल प्रोप्राइटर थे तब आप एक बिजनेसमैन थे, आप ऑर्गेनाइजेशन चला रहे. You were not running a company. What is the difference in sole proprietary concern? You are the owner and your liability is not restricted. It extends to all of your personal assets as well as official assets. Your liability was unlimited. लिख लो. In case of sole proprietorship, जब आप एक individual business run करते हैं, company नहीं है, वो organization है, तो आपकी लाइबिलिटी अनलिमिटेड होती है. योर लाइबिलिटी इज अनलिमिटेड. However, OPC has a concept of a separate legal entity. Your liability is limited liability. So the difference between OPC and sole proprietary concern is, write down here, in sole proprietary concern, you are the only owner of your business and your liability is unlimited liability. Under OPC write down, you have the concept of separate legal entity and your liability is limited liability. Company is different, shareholders are different. So this one shareholder is different from the company he has formed. His liability he will pay, company's liability, company's assets will be used to pay off the liability. Because company is an artificial person who has come into existence. Now I am not just the whole sole owner, I am the owner as well as I have formed the company. My company is different and I am different. So company's liability or company's liability and my liability is limited. समझ आ गया OPC and sole proprietor का difference. Now what happens is, number 2 point, it says procedural requirements of OPC are very simple. Many exemptions are given in comparison to other form of companies. अभी आप पढ़ेंगे small companies, private companies, public companies, बहुत सारी formalities है. OPC को सिंप्लीफाई कर एक बंदा अपना सूट बूट डालकर आराम से रजिस्ट्रेशन कराकर आए और अपनी OPC खोले. उसकी क्या क्या रिक्वायरमेंट्स है, क्या क्या मिनिमम कैपिटल है, एवरीथिंग इज रिक्वायर्ड, वी विल डू इन पॉइंट्स. सो इट इज वेरी सिंप्लीफाइड प्रोसीजर. मेनी एग्जेम्पशंस आर गिवन टू द OPC company. Now point number 1, you will always write down in this points. First point is OPC is a private limited company. Can I open up an OPC as a public company? It says no. OPC is always a private limited company with the minimum share capital as may be prescribed. So government from time to time keep prescribing the capital. As of now, no limit is prescribed. So you can open up an OPC with 5,000 rupees also. You can open up the OPC with 50 lakh rupees also. That is absolutely your wish. There is no limit prescribed, but if the government provide the limits in the amendment rules or somewhere, then you have to follow that. Let me just clear this and one by one we'll do. So point number 1, we have just discussed that OPC is a private limited company. Yes, ma'am, OPC is a private limited company. We all know that now. So if A wants to open up an OPC, can A open up an OPC as a public company? So the answer is no. It will always be a OBC private limited company. Okay? One person as a member, you don't need any other person. If he joins you, then it becomes a private company. Anyways, it's a private company. So minimum requirement, 1 person. Minimum paid up capital, no limit as of now. Now these 3, 4, 5, 6 points are very, very important. These are the points related to the nominee. These are the points related to the nominee of OPC. अब क्या होता है बच्चा, वो कह रहा है आप OPC बना रहे हैं, 1 person company बना रहे हैं. So tomorrow if you die or you leave the business, who is going to look after this business of yours? You have set up such a huge company, you have set up the business. So it says tomorrow if the subscribers die or he become incompetent to contract. When do you become incompetent to become contract? Person of unsound mind, minor तो है ही नहीं इसमें, or disqualified by law. Tomorrow if you become of unsound mind, you're not able to do the business, then who will take care of your business? So in case of the death of the OPC person or he becomes incompetent to contract, then memorandum of OPC must tell the name of the other person. This name of the other person is the name of the nominee who will take care of the business in case the OPC guy has died. So let's assume Mr. A has opened up an OPC. So now this Mr. A will have OPC as one member. It will be a private limited company, number one. Number two, he says that Mr. B will be my nominee. He always have to write in the memorandum who will be the nominee tomorrow when I die, who will take care of my business. So let's assume he has named Mr. B as the nominee. And where will you name the nominee? You will name the nominee in the memorandum of association. Point number 3. This other person, who is this other person, child? Who is this other person? This other person is Mr. B. This other person, Mr. B, whose name is given in the memorandum, shall give his prior consent, and the same needs to be filed with the registrar of companies. Now you remember admission of a partner. Whenever a new partner was admitted, we were always used to send an intimation to the registrar of firms. कराते थे ना, हम पढ़ा है आपने ABC अगर पार्टनर्स है, D अगर ज्वाइन कर रहा है तो हम फ्रेश रजिस्ट्रेशन लेंगे. याद है फर्स्ट एग्जांपल ऑफ दैट थर्ड चैप्टर ऑफ registration and dissolution of firm. Similarly, it is talking about that if you are appointing this nominee, whosoever is this nominee, Mr. B, will give a written consent that, okay, fine, Mr. A, I will be acting as nominee in your OPC, and this consent has to be filed with the registrar of companies. क्यों file करना है? So that ROC knows that who is your nominee. ROC has to be intimated that tomorrow this Mr. A, if he dies, the entire company will be run by Mr. B. And this Mr. B has the right to withdraw his consent. Yes, ma'am, he also has the right to withdraw his consent. Whenever he wants, he can simply file an application to the registrar and he can tell him that I no longer wants to be a nominee. Or the member of OPC. Member of OPC means Mr. A can also change the name of Mr. B by giving a notice to the company, and again company needs to intimate the same to the registrar. अब मिस्टर ए जो हमारे केस में मिस्टर ए है ना, जो कंपनी चला रहे हैं, ओपीसी चला रहे हैं, इन्होंने नॉमिनी का नाम रखा मिस्टर बी, मेमोरेंडम में उसका नाम डाल दिया और रजिस्ट्रेशन ऑफ कंपनीज के जाकर रिटन कंसेंट भी फाइल करा दिया दैट मिस्टर बी इज गोइंग टू एक्ट एज माय नॉमिनी. Now two options are available. Mr. B can also withdraw his consent whenever he wants, means he can ask ROC to remove his name. Or Mr. A can also say that I'm not liking Mr. B now, let's make Mr. C the nominee. So he can also change, or Mr. D or Mr. E, whosoever he wants, he can also change the name of nominee anytime by sending a notice to the company, and also intimation has to be sent to the registrar. Any such name shall not deem to be an alteration of memorandum. Very important. वो कहते हैं अगर आपने name change करा है, doesn't mean that memorandum needs to be altered. You simply need to file a application with the registrar. First you mention your name in the memorandum. Now alteration memorandum में changes कराने की जरूरत नहीं है. आप simply registrar को जाकर intimate कर दो. Intimate का मतलब होता है inform कर. So children, my two questions to you. Mr. P formed an OPC. Mr. P formed an OPC company. Number one, it's a private limited company. Number two, no limit is subscribed. Number three, he named Mr. Q as his nominee. Number four, this Mr. Q will give a written consent in the prescribed form, and we will file it with the registrar of companies at the time of incorporation, means at the time of setting up of the company. So whenever you are setting up the company, you will write in the memorandum that Mr. Q is appointed. कहाँ लिखना है हमने? Mr. Q की information memorandum of OPC में हमने लिख देना है कि Mr. Q is my nominee, and उससे written consent ले लेना है और वो registrar of companies के साथ जाके file कर देना. Let's assume Mr. Q has withdrawn his consent. Or you can say Mr. P is not liking Mr. Q and he says, now Mr. Q is not my nominee. Let's keep Mr. R as my nominee. Mr. P, the person, member of OPC, said that I want to change Mr. Q. I have sent a notice to him, and now I want Mr. R to be my nominee. Now, what all he needs to do? If he has changed the name of nominee, do I need to make alteration in the memorandum, or do I need to intimate the registrar? What is required to be done? You have to tell me. What is required to be done? It's a private limited, okay. Yes, Kunal Jain, this is our second last class, and on Friday we'll be having the last class of law. Don't worry, the feelings are exactly mutual on my side also. Even I get too much attached with my students. Huh? Excellent. Manvi Khanna, Himanshu, MD, Tejashri, no alteration is required, only intimating the registrar. Very good, children. Ashriya, Arshdeep, Ishan, Monu, Kunal, Shivani, Ankit, Said, Asha, Keshav, Kunal, Jain. Harshit is saying he has to inform. Very good. Ekta, that's correct. He needs to intimate the registrar. Very good. Saima, Khushi, Rohini, Priyanka, Vibhu, Bhavna, Patel, Khushi, Namdeo. All of you are correct. By giving a notice to the person is also important. We need to give a notice to the person. Notice has to be given to Mr. Q that now we are changing your name, and intimation has to be sent to the registrar. Excellent, children. Very good. All of you are correct. Pooja Kumari, Harshit, Varda, Bhumika, Kopula Reddy, Surya, MD. MD, articles and memorandum of association last class पे करेंगे, अभी टेंशन नहीं लेनी. मोहम्मद हुसैन, श्रुति, गुंजन, अविनाश, करेक्ट. समझ आ गया सबको. नाउ नॉमिनी पॉइंट इज एब्सोल्युटली क्लियर. फटाफट से आगे चलते हैं. नाउ हु कैन बी a member of an OPC? ये पॉइंट्स क्लियर हो गए. सिर्फ 1% कैन बी मेंबर. मिनिमम पेड अप कैपिटल. पॉइंट नंबर 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 लिख लेना. These are all related to nominee of the OPC. These points are going to tell you who can be a member of an OPC. Who can open an OPC in India? Who can open an OPC? Only a natural person. Is company a natural person? Yes or no? No, ma'am. Company is an artificial person. So company nahi, individual hona chahiye. Company cannot open up an OPC. Only an individual. Natural person means human being. Who is an Indian citizen? Number one, he should be an Indian citizen. Whether resident in India or not, has stayed in India for a period of not less than 120 days during the immediately preceding financial year. He can incorporate an OPC, and only he can be a nominee for the sole member of OPC. So if I have a foreign citizen who is staying in India, can he open up an OPC? Can a foreign citizen open up an OPC? Yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am? फटाफट से बताते जाओ, क्योंकि we will try to learn it also in the class. Yes, company is an artificial person. Company cannot open up an OPC. Very good. Yes, Abhinav Kumar, that's correct. Arshdeep, then it gets converted into different type of company. Answer me, children. If I have a friend, Mr. A, who is a foreign citizen, who is a foreigner, can he open up an OPC in India? He's staying in India for more than 180 days, 160 days, whatever. No, ma'am, he cannot open up an OPC. Why? Because he has to be an Indian citizen. Very good. All of you are correct. So Indian citizen होना जरूरी है. अगर आपने OPC खोलनी है, examiner आपको confuse करने के लिए बोल सकता है कि Mr. A is a foreign citizen. He's staying in India for more than 300 days. Can he open up an OPC? Your answer will be no. Only an Indian citizen can open up an OPC. Clear हो गया पहला point. दूसरा point कर लेते हैं. I have a friend who is an Indian citizen. He stayed in India in the previous year for 84 days, and rest of the days he was on his trip to Europe. I have a friend, Mr. A, who is an Indian citizen. He stayed in India in the previous year for 84 days. And on the balance days, he was on trip to Europe tour. Can he open up an OPC in India? Yes or no? Ronit, Rekha, Harshit, all correct. We have a new name, Mr. Kuchi Manchi Lakshmi Manoj. 186 days की तो कोई provision ही नहीं है बेटा, Lakshmi. There's a provision of 120 days. So I want an answer for my question. 84 days if I've stayed in India, can I open up an OPC? Yes or no? If I've stayed in India for 84 days, Monu Singh is saying yes, ma'am. No, G, he cannot. Anjana is saying yes, ma'am. No, he cannot. I said 84 days. Why are you giving me the condition only 120 days? So all my dear students who have written yes, it's absolutely wrong. You have to stay in India for at least 120 days in order to open up an OPC. Children, are you listening the question carefully or not? Pooja Kumari, correct. Hadiya, Sayyad, Pratindya, Ankit, Varda, Chanchal, correct. All of you. Lakshita, Abhinav. Yes, Manvi, now it's correct. Tanu, Bala Sajjan Lakshmi, correct. Surya Kumar, excellent. No, ma'am, 120 days condition is required. MD says no, ma'am, because he has stayed less than 120 days. Absolutely correct. Bhavna Patel, correct. Harshit, Gunjan, Divesh, Sehajpreet, Priyanka, Keshav, Shruti, Fatimdul, Isha Pandit, Ekta Tiwari, Sanjana, Rekha, correct. All of you are correct. Only if he has stayed in India for 120 days. So, is question ka answer tha no, ma'am, he cannot open because he has stayed in India only for 84 days. अब ध्यान से सुने एक और question. My friend Mr. A, I have a friend Mr. A, an Indian citizen. I'll better write it down for you. Wants to be a nominee in my OPC. He stayed in India for 119 days in previous financial year. Can he be a nominee in my OPC? एक तो आपने बोल दिया कि मैम OPC के लिए आपको 120 डेज रहना है, तभी आप OPC खोल सकते हैं. 84 days वाला example we have done. You all said no, ma'am, less than 120 days you cannot open OPC. Now I'm saying Mr. A, an Indian citizen, wants to be a nominee in my OPC. He stayed in India for 119 days in the previous financial year. So immediately preceding financial year का मतलब होता है previous financial year, that is 1st April 2021 till 31st March 2022. Can he be my nominee in my OPC? Ashfiya, such a crime you are saying nominee is killing the subscriber and doing illegal act. Illegal actions will also be taken against this nominee, okay? Don't have such a kind of violent mindset. Just concentrate on what we are doing. Okay, excellent. All of you have given the correct answer. No, ma'am, because 120 days is compulsory for the nominee as well. Excellent. I'm not taking your names because everyone has given the correct answer. No, ma'am, he cannot be a nominee because 120 days condition is for both member as well as nominee. लिख लेना ही. मेंबर भी 120 डेज रहा होना चाहिए इंडिया में. अगर आप नॉमिनी बनना चाहते हैं तब भी यू शुड हैव स्टेड इन इंडिया फॉर मोर देन 120 डेज इन द प्रीवियस ईयर. क्लियर है? एंड यू शुड बी इंडियन सिटीजन, नॉट अ फॉरेन सिटीजन. आई एम रबिंग इट ऑफ. No person can incorporate more than one OPC or become nominee in more than one such company. Excellent. You can have only one OPC and you can be a member only, nominee in only one OPC, not more than that. So if any person tries to open 2 or 3 OPCs, in such a case, any such contraventions, he will be liable for punishment. If he contravenes the provision, fine of 10,000 rupees will be charged, and further fine of 1,000 for every day during which this default is made. So if law says you can open only one OPC and you can nominee be only in one OPC, if you try to open contravene the provisions का मतलब होता है अगर आप ये गलत करते हैं, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट करते हैं प्रोविजंस के साथ, if you don't follow, if you do any illegal thing, fine of 10,000 and every day fine of rupees 1,000 will be charged. No member can be a member or nominee or can hold share with beneficiary. No minor. So आंसर मिल गया आपको. Minor cannot be a nominee or the member of OPC. So यहाँ पे only one OPC member हो सकते हैं आप, not more than one. Minor cannot be a member in the OPC. Absolutely no for the minor. And you cannot open Section 8 companies by opening OPC. Company cannot be incorporated or converted into Section 8 companies, although it may be converted into public or private companies. आपने आज OPC बनाई Mr. A ने. OPC is anyways a private limited company. Tomorrow he wants to convert it into public company. Please make 7 members the minimum members. You can convert it into public company. You make minimum members 2 members. You can convert it into private limited company. But can we convert OPC into Section 8 companies? No, you cannot do. Because Section 8 companies are charitable companies. They have their own exemptions and qualifications to be fulfilled. So OPC cannot be opened as a Section 8 companies. So 3 restrictions: you cannot be incorporating more than one OPC, minor cannot be a member of OPC, and you cannot open the OPC as Section 8 companies. So if I ask you, can you open up an OPC for charitable organizations? Answer is no. Can OPC run the non-banking financial instruments? The answer is again no. You cannot carry any non-banking financial investment activities in case by opening OPC. So now I give you 2 minutes. Just go through all these points of OPC. ये simplify करके दिया हुआ है. You simply have to learn all the points that we have discussed in OPC. And let me just take a small break over here, and then we will continue with the further types of companies. Let's take a small break. All right, welcome back, students. And I'm so happy and glad to read your comments. Those have written that, ma'am, we have been able to learn about OPC in the class itself, because this is because children, you're answering back, so that helps you to remember the information also. So very well done, all those who have sent the correct answers also. And I'm so glad that you have learned the information also. And those who are still confused, being the OPC, being the member, Bhumika is saying, ma'am, OPC and sole proprietor, the registration difference. Yes, definitely, that is one difference. And Bhumika, another difference is in sole proprietorship, your liability is unlimited, and in OPC, it's limited. Rekha says in the procedure, so Rekha Sharma, you have to see it in the immediately preceding previous year. That means if today you want to open an OPC, then from 1st April 2021 till 31st March 2022, you should have stayed in India for more than 120 days. 120 or more than 1. Non-banking financial institutions, those who are asking NBFCs, we have a separate topic to be coming up. We will do it at that time. Bhumika and Harshit. Member of OPC can be a member in other companies. Somebody is asking the same question again and again. So children, I just told you that regarding OPC, you can be a member in one OPC. At the same time, you can be a nominee in another OPC, but not more than one OPC. So you're opening one-person company, you're anyways encouraging the entrepreneurship, you're running your own company. Why would you try to be a member in other companies? So it says one person at the same time, you can open an OPC, one OPC only, and not more than one OPC. And at the same time, you can act as a nominee also in another OPC. Say, for example, I have opened my OPC, I can be a nominee in someone else's OPC also, but not more than one. Now let's quickly proceed to public and private company. It says public company means which is not a private company. Very interesting. So then it says it becomes very important to know what is a private company. So public companies, number one point is it is not a private company. Public at large is involved. It's not private. Again, there is a subscription of minimum paid up capital. Government from time to time announces the minimum paid up capital. It has to be subscribed up till that much amount, and you can open up a public company. Subsidiary of a public company is always deemed to be a public company. Very, very important point. Public company uses words limited after its name. Everyone knows that. Private limited has to use the words PVT limited after its name. So if I have opened a company ABC limited, obviously it's a public company because private के लिए आपको private word use करना पड़ता है. So ABC limited is a public company. So if ABC limited is a public company and it has a subsidiary company CD limited. So it says whatsoever subsidiary companies this public company is having, this subsidiary company will also be always a public company. Now the twist is, if say for example, this public company subsidiary is CD Private Limited. What is subsidiary? Don't worry, we will do it in a while. As of now, simply understand a company which is in which ABC Limited is holding more than 50% of the share capital. So CD Private Limited becomes its subsidiary. So if ABC Limited is having a CD Private Limited as its subsidiary company, then for the purpose of this act, CD Private Limited will also deemed to be a public company. That means even if private company is your subsidiary, because public company is a huge company in which public at large is involved. So its subsidiary will also be considered as a public company. Even if that subsidiary in its own is a private limited. If you have my CD Private Limited as my subsidiary, then it will be considered to be a public company only. It will not just be a private company because I am its holding company. So holding company is a public company. It has larger control. So private limited company will also be considered as a public company. Minimum number of members, 7 minimum number of members are required in public company, and maximum there is no limit. There can be as many number of members in public company. There is no limit. So if I ask you that ABC Limited has 10 members minimum, is it okay to open up ABC Limited? You will say yes, ma'am. Can I open up public limited company with 5 members? You will say no, ma'am. Can ABC Limited have 1 lakh members? Yes, it can, because there is no limit on the number of members. Clear ho gaya? Private company, again, there is no limit of the paid up capital. Government may tell the limit, you have to follow that limit. Minimum 2, maximum 200, excluding the past and present employees. Very, very important information. So if I tell you AB Private Limited is a company, can I alone open a private limited company? Yes, ma'am. We just learned OPC can be opened by a single person. Private limited company, not an OPC, just a private limited company, minimum 2 members are required. Can I have maximum members 500 in AB Private Limited? So I've opened up a company, AB Private Limited, and the maximum numbers are 500. Is it okay to have 500 members? Okay. Tell me, children, can we have 500 members in a private limited company? We just learned that in public company, we can have maximum 1 lakh, 2 lakh, as many members. Can we have 500 members in AB Private Limited? I've opened up a company, ABC Private Limited, and it has 500 members. Can this happen? Jaldi batao, yes ma'am, no ma'am. Very good. No ma'am, 200 is the limit. You cannot exceed beyond that. If I tell you I have maximum 300 members, out of which 100 members are those who were my past employees. Can I have now 300 members in private limited company? Can I have now? Very good. Bala, Sajal, Lakshmi, Rekha, Abhinav, Bhumika, Satya, Bibu, Shifa, Fatim, Mathul. All of you are correct. Mr. Heth Makana, absolutely correct. 200 is the limit. But now listen to another question. ये आपने ठीक बता दिया. 500 members नहीं हो सकते. अब मैंने कहा मेरे maximum members 300 हैं, out of which 100 members are my past employees. Can I have 300 members as my members in private limited company? Very good, Himanshu Pathak, Tejashri, Hadiya, Sehajpreet, Bhavna, Manvi, Tanishka, Surya Kumar, Khushi, excellent, Pratindya, Sagar, very good. All of you are correct. Sidra, that's correct. Yes, ma'am, we can have, because past and present employees are excluded. Excluded means they are not counted in the number of members. Therefore, the employees, Sehajpreet, that's correct. So good children, you have answered it correct. 300 members क्यों हो सकते हैं? Because मैंने कहा 100 जो है मेरे past employees हैं. So all the past and present employees will be excluded. If I exclude those 100, then 200 is the limit. That is absolutely within the limit. So I can have 300 members, out of which 100 are my past employees. Then it's absolutely correct. समझ आ गया? We can do many more examples in this, but I hope you have understood now. Abhinav Kumar, no, your answer is wrong. In this, 300 are allowed because 100 were my previous employees, so you will exclude them. Yes, Bhargavi, that's correct. Sanjana, Bibuhu, all of you are correct. Shivangi. Ardenhu, Biswas, bilkul theek. Right to transfer the shares is restricted. In public company, you can freely transfer your shares. Public at large is involved. Here, it's a private company, so there is a restriction. You cannot transfer your shares freely. Can you invite public to subscribe and take the shares in your company? It says no, it's a private company, so you cannot invite the public at large to take up the securities in your company. So if I have ABC Private Limited running, can you ask public to take up shares in ABC Private Limited? No. So if you want to invite public, you have to get the private company converted into public company. So if I ask you, is public involved in private company? No, ma'am. Public is involved in public company. Private limited is a private within its own limitations. It's doing the business. It cannot restrict. There are restrictions on the transfer of shares, and there are also restrictions on inviting the public for securities. Let us read the public and private companies from the study material as well, because I don't want you to leave a single point. Private company is a company having paid up capital. I just told you there are restrictions on the type of shares, right to transfer the shares, except in 1% company. Number of limit to members is 200. 1% company with the limit is 1, na? 1 is the minimum, 1 is the maximum. So otherwise 200 is the limit. These are the points which we have to read. Minimum 2 members. If private company is OPC, it will be 1 member. 200 excluding the present employee cum members, and erstwhile means old. Erstwhile means पुराने employee cum members. तो अगर आपके पुराने members थे जो employees थे, या फिर पुराने employees जो आपके members थे, वो सब नहीं include होंगे 200. We just did the example. Transfer of shares is restricted. Subscription to public is restricted. Small company is always a private company. Very interesting. So अभी हम देखेंगे small company क्या होती है. उसमें भी बहुत major amendment है, which you all have to remember. And OPC can be formed as private limited company. So if I tell you, my friend Mr. A, an Indian citizen who has stayed in India for, he's an Indian citizen. He stayed in India for 300 days in the previous year. Wants to open up an OPC in India. And he opened up Mr. A OPC Limited. He wants to open up an OPC Limited as a public company. Can he do so? Yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am. Mr. A is an Indian citizen, stayed in India for more than 300 days in the previous financial year. Yes, Surya Kumar, but they are not counted in the number of members. Okay. Employee cum member means those who are employee as well as member. So if you're employee of a company, you will not be counted in the list of 200. Priyanka, meaning of erstwhile means old employee cum members. Purane. Adisha, all the notes of partnership are already uploaded on the portal. You can go and check it from there. Please, children, tell me, can Mr. A open an OPC Limited as a public company? Yes or no? Vaishnavi and Tejashri are saying, yes, ma'am, he can open. Muhammad is also saying, yes, ma'am, he can open. Wow. Sagar is also saying, yes, ma'am, he can open. पता क्यों yes कह रहे हैं? ये ध्यान से सुन लिया कि इंडियन सिटीजन एंड 300 days है. ये नहीं सुन रहे कि मैम पूछ रही है कि कैन आई ओपन ओपीसी एज पब्लिक कंपनी. आंसर इज नो. वेरी गुड. चंचल, बाला सज्जन लक्ष्मी, Lakshita, Adish, Monu, Shivani, Zeeba, Sehaj, Preet, Pratindya, your answer is correct. No, ma'am. OPC is always a private limited company. Shruti, Sidra, Harshit, Varda, Keshav, Tanishka, Arshdeep, Pranav, Saima, Rohini, Shruti, Bibihu, Arshdeep. All of you are correct. He cannot open OPC as a public company. Why? Because OPC can only be formed as a private company. You cannot have OPC as public company. So OPC also has restriction on the transfer of shares. OPC also has restriction on invitation to public to subscribe. Why? Because it's a private limited company. समझ आ गया. फटाफट से small company भी कर लेते हैं. Small company is the company defined under section 2 subsection 85. Now it says small company is a company other than public company. क्यों कह रहा है other than public company? क्योंकि अभी अभी मैंने आपको बताया small company is always a private company. So OPC is always a private company. ये आप notes में लिखोगे आज. And small company is always a private company. मैंने अभी एग्जांपल कराया. OPC किसी ने खोलनी थी एज अ पब्लिक कंपनी. आपने कहा नहीं हो सकता मैम क्योंकि प्राइवेट है. स्मॉल कंपनी पब्लिक कंपनी हो सकती है. नो मैम, स्मॉल कंपनी इज ऑलवेज अ प्राइवेट कंपनी. तो ये कहीं लिख लो. OPC is always a private limited company and small company is also always a private limited company. Okay. Now, small company, what is actually a small company? Small company means a company which has paid up share capital which does not exceed 50 lakh rupees or such higher amount as the case may be, which shall not be more than 10 crore rupees. Very interesting. Let me just drop this board first. It says small company hota kya? So number one, my students just learn small company is a private company. Pehla point to humne ye learn kar liya. After that, a company which paid up share capital की limit होती है इसमें and turnover की limit है. Turnover means the whatever sales you have made in your profit and loss account, whatever turnover you have had during the previous financial year. So it should not exceed 2 crore rupees and your paid up capital should not exceed 50 lakh rupees. So if my paid up capital is 50 lakh rupees and my immediately preceding financial year, my turnover was rupees 2 crores, then the company that I have opened is known as a small company. Then the company which I have opened is known as a small company. और such higher amount, कहते हैं 50 लाख तो मिनिमम हो गई ना हमारी. Higher amount shall not be more than 10 crore rupees. नीचे आ जाओ amendment में. For the purpose of sub-clause 1 and 2 of clause 85 section 2, that means section 2 subsection 85 की amendment, the paid up capital and turnover shall not exceed rupees 2 crores and 20 crores as per 1st April 2021. So where it is written 10 crores, it has now become 2 crores. And where it is written 100 crores, it has now become 20 crores. Amendment may, they have just given you the upper limit. So what are the upper limits now? Maximum limits are such higher amount can be maximum up till 2 crores. And in case of turnover, it can be maximum up till 20 crores. All of you will have to make these changes in your study material. It is given 10 crore को काट कर आप 2 crore कर लीजिए. And जहाँ पे लिखा है more than 100 crore उसको काट कर 20 crores कर दीजिए. कर दिया. अब हम अपनी definition learn करते हैं. Small company which does not exceed, that means 50 lakhs should be my paid up capital or such higher amount. Now government from time to time will tell you the higher amount, but it will not be more than 2 crores. Say for example, in this financial year, government has announced in the budget that the paid up share capital can be up till 1 crore. Then 50 lakhs will not be seen, then 1 lakh will be seen. So whatever higher amount he will be prescribing from time to time. If he has not prescribed any limit, 50 lakh is the limit that you have to learn. So 50 lakh capital and turnover 2 crores has to be seen in order to open up a small company. एक बार दोबारा clearly लिख लो. So what is my limit? 50 lakh rupees is my paid up share capital. And my profit and loss account is showing a turnover which is up till 2 crore rupees. Then yes, ma'am, I can open up a small company. Small company will not apply to holding and subsidiary. So all the holding and subsidiary are never a small company. Section 8 companies are never a small company. Small companies cannot be Section 8 companies. एक और कंपनीज मैंने आपको बताई थी कि सेक्शन 8 कंपनीज नहीं हो सकती. वो कौन सी हैं? One more company I have taught you today. They cannot be Section 8 companies. Please tell me. Okay, Mr. MD, I'll get it checked. Erstwhile means previous employees, Swatigiri. Very good, Harshit Bhutani, the first one to send the correct answer. Yes, Harshit, government by notification can change the limit. Absolutely correct. No, Sehajpreet, 2 crore is in place of 10 crore. I hope now you people have written when I made you wrote it down. So which is another company? Small company cannot be Section 8 company. There was another company which I taught you today, children, that it cannot be opened as a. Very good. Monu, Arshdeep, Satya, Pranav, everyone is correct. Sayyid Majid says OPC can't be a non-profit organization. Excellent. Lakshita is saying OPC cannot be open under Section 28. It's not Section 28. It is Section 8. Okay. Madam nominee. Yes. Pati Mathul, even to become a nominee, the person should have stayed in India for 120 days. Very good. Tanishka is saying charitable company. Very good. So all of you are correct, children. Isha, Hadya, Bhavna, Ekta, Shruti, Rohini, all of you are correct, children. OPC also cannot operate as a Section 8 company. Section 8 companies are the charitable companies. We cannot have OPC as Section 8. We cannot have small companies as Section 8 companies. So examiner can ask you a question on Section 8 companies and can give you that Mr. A has been an Indian citizen and he is staying in India for more than 120 days. Can he open up OPC in India for charitable organization? So your answer will be no, he cannot open up Section 8 companies because it is not allowed under law. समझ आ गया. एंड लिमिट्स क्या लर्न करनी है मैम? हमने ये लर्न करना है कि पेड अप शेयर कैपिटल इफ 50 lakh rupees and my turnover is 2 crore rupees, then I can open up a small company. Finish. Private company, paid up capital not more than 50 lakhs, 2 crores is the turnover, section 8 and holding and subsidiary को apply नहीं होती. So these are the points that you have to remember. Can I open up a small company as a public company? Yes or no? Hurry up. Can I open up a small company as a public company? Can I have ABC Limited having a paid up capital of 50 lakhs and turnover of 2 crores? Can I open it up as a public company? Yes or no? No, Sanjana, OPC can never have a section 8 company. Tell me, children, can I open up a small company as a public company? Absolutely correct. The answer is no. Why? Because small company is always a private limited company. Very good. So we have discussed public company also. Articles do not have any restricting clauses. Shares are transferable. No minimum required of paid up capital, and minimum 7 and maximum no limit on the case of members. And this is very important point. Subsidiary of public company is also deemed to be a public company. जिनको नहीं समझ आया था, they will understand once we do the holding and subsidiary. Any company formed for any lawful purpose means it should not be any illegal purpose. By 7 or more persons, if you're opening a company, you can open up a public company. Just remember that it should not be a small company and it should not be an OPC. On the basis of control, अब क्या होता है, एक कंपनी दूसरी कंपनी को कंट्रोल करना चाह रही है. किस बेस पे? या तो on the basis of its composition of board of directors, or he is holding more than 50% of the voting power, either on its own or together with its subsidiaries. In such cases, the company which is holding this in another company becomes the holding company. So section 2 subsection 87 is defining the subsidiary company. It says company means any body corporate. कोई भी जो body corporate है वो company है. And a company is a holding company when the company of which are subsidiary companies. तो कहते हैं these are relative terms. ये दोनों एक दूसरे से related है. Holding and subsidiary have a relationship with each other. So subsidiary company is a company in which the holding company is either holding the composition of board of directors, means how your board of directors will be appointed. Say for example, ABC Limited is a company, and this ABC Limited decides how the ZD Limited company will appoint its directors, how the appointment of directors will happen, how the directors will function, what will be the composition of board of directors. So now this ABC Limited is holding the composition of board of directors, means उसका पूरा control जो है ना directors का CD Limited का, वो ABC Limited के hand में. So ABC Limited will become what? Holding or subsidiary company? So ABC Limited will be a holding or subsidiary company. If ABC Limited is trying to control the board of directors of CD Limited, then ABC Limited is a holding or subsidiary company. Tell me the answer. Excellent. Very good. Ma'am, it becomes a holding company. Avinash, Pooja, Himanshu, Manvi, Ziba, Ishan, Monu, Rohini. Excellent, Sehajpreet. All of you are correct. It becomes a holding company. Now, if I am not holding the composition of board of directors, CD Limited only decides this board of directors, but I am holding more than 50% of the voting powers in this company. Do I still become holding company? If I'm having more than 1/2 of the voting powers, either on my own or my subsidiaries and myself together, if we are having more than 50% of the voting powers, but we do not control the board of directors, then I still become the holding company, yes or no? Bibuhu, Bhavna, Saima, Isha, Ankit, all of you correct. Mr. Narendra, Anjana, सबने ठीक आंसर दिया था. अब दूसरा आंसर बताओ मुझे कि if I'm not holding the board of directors, but I'm having more than 50% of the voting powers and controls in CD Limited, then also, yes, ma'am, it becomes a holding company. Excellent, Mr. Tanish Mittal, Bhumika, Harshit, Satya, Shahi, Himanshu, Sehajpreet, Hadiya, Monu Singh. Excellent, all of you. So the only twist was the word or. And नहीं है. So या तो मैं board of directors आपके control कर रही हूँ या फिर more than 50% of the voting powers है. Any one of them if I'm having, I become holding company and you become my subsidiary company. And now if this ABC Limited is a holding company and this CD is a private limited company, since CD Limited is my subsidiary, therefore CD Private Limited will also deem to be a public company. ये इस लाइन का मीनिंग था. Subsidiary of a public company is always a public company. So even if you're in your personal statute, you are a private company. But since I am your holding, I am public company, I am your parent company. So you are my son. Now you will also be considered as a public company. Clear हो गया? So company is public subsidiary, even if any of the sub clauses followed, either subsection 1 or subsection 2, you become subsidiary. Composition of board of directors shall deem to be controlled means you're exercising the power at your discretion. You are deciding how you will appoint the directors or remove the directors. So ABC Limited will be deciding how CD Limited's directors are to be appointed, how they have to remove, how the expressions will be happening every day. Company means body corporate, and layer in relation to holding means it's subsidiary or subsidiaries. So ABC Limited is controlling the board of directors of CD Limited. CD is its subsidiary. CD Limited is controlling the board of directors of PQR. PQR is की subsidiary है. PQR is controlling the board of directors of AMN. AMN is की subsidiary है. And AM will be subsidiary of ABC Limited also. So it says layers are formed. Subsidiary की layers होती हैं. I am the parent. I have subsidiary. Subsidiary further as a subsidiary. So this subsidiary company will also be the most holding company subsidiary. Example से जल्दी समझ आएगा. A will be subsidiary of B if B controls the board of directors of A. ठीक है? If B is controlling the board of directors of A, so B is the holding company, A is the subsidiary company. That means without the consent or approval of another person, he cannot appoint the majority of directors. Controlling the board of directors means now I will take the consent and approval of my holding company, then only we will decide who are to be appointed and 2 directors are to be removed. If B is holding more than 50% of the share capital of A, then which is the holding and which is subsidiary? Example 3 में जल्दी बताओ मुझे. If B is holding more than 50% of the share capital of A, then which company is the subsidiary and which is the holding? Okay, very good, children. Avinash, Gunjan, all of you have written correct answer. Are there no Biswas? Ashwiya, all of you were correct. Now you have to tell me its own together. Lakshita, it means either I am holding 50% on my own or I am as ABC Private Limited and PQR Private Limited. We both are holding more than 50%. So if PQR is my subsidiary, then also I become your holding company. Very good. B is the holding company. A is the subsidiary company. Excellent. All of you are correct, children. Very good. Now again, B is a subsidiary of A and C. अभी ध्यान से देखो. B क्या है? Subsidiary of A. So there is A holding company and it has a subsidiary B. C is the subsidiary of B. So C is subsidiary of B. Now C will also become subsidiary of A. So in example number 4, A is the holding company. If A is holding B and B is holding C, therefore A is also holding C. Okay, if B is my subsidiary, C की subsidiary B है, तो C holding A की भी subsidiary बन जाएगी. And अगर C की subsidiary D है, तो फिर D will be a subsidiary of B as well as A also. And so on. This is known as layers of subsidiary company. समझ आ गया? Example 4 is clear to everyone. You can remember this with this diagram of arrows. If you are having subsidiary under the subsidiary, then that sub-subsidiary will also be my subsidiary. And a private company which is subsidiary of public company will always deem to be a public company, even if this subsidiary continues to be a private company in its articles. So if ABC Limited is my public company and it has a subsidiary CD Private Limited, then this CD Private Limited, although it is private limited in its articles of association, but since it's my subsidiary, therefore it will deem to be a public company. It will be known as public as a public company. Do you want to do associate company also, children? I think let's finish associate company. And in the next class, we will be finishing off all these type of companies. The most important is Section 8 companies. I would request all of you to give it a fair reading before you come to the next class. It again has a very major amendment, Section 8. So what you have to do is read Section 8 and read significant points also. I will explain you each and every point of Section 8 companies in the next class. Okay, let's finish it off with associate companies and then we'll wind up the session for today. I hope holding and subsidiary is clear to all of you. So what are the associate companies? So on the basis of control, we have two types of control. One is holding and subsidiary. Another is associate companies. It says in relation to another companies, it's a company in which another company has significant influence, but which is not a subsidiary having such influence and includes a joint venture also. So two important points for associate companies is, number one, you're having a significant influence. What is the meaning of significant influence? At least 20% of the share capital you should be holding. Voting pass means the 20% of the control, 20% of the share capital. If you are holding in another company, then you become associate company. Or point number two, you are a joint venture company. Joint venture means any joint arrangement where the parties have joint control of the arrangement of the rights of the net assets. So there are net assets worth rupees 5 crores and ABC Limited and CD Limited are jointly holding. So where there is a joint arrangement where the parties are having joint control over the net assets, they are known as joint venture. And how the share capital has to be calculated? Paid up share capital and convertible preference share capital. So if I have paid up share capital of 50,000 rupees and my convertible preference share capital is 50,000 rupees, then children, you have to see 20% of the total 1 lakh. Now, if ABC Limited is holding 20% of this 1 lakh, if he is holding 20% of this, that means more than 20,000 of the share capital in this company, then they were both treated as the associate company. So 20% हम 50,000 का नहीं करेंगे, 20% हम convertible and equity capital को add कर 1 lakh rupees आएगा, उसका 20% हम करेंगे. This is the meaning of total share capital. समझ आ गया? A Limited is a public company and holds 23% share capital in B Limited. So A Limited is a public company. It is having more than 20% share capital in B and 15% share capital of C Limited. Now by virtue of shareholding, कहते हैं shareholding के control को देखकर क्या पता लग रहा है? That B Limited is the associate company of A Limited. B Limited will be the associate. Why B Limited is the associate of A Limited? Because it is holding more than 20% of the share capital in the other company. C Limited is not the associate as the 20% limit has not been met. Therefore, it does not have any significant influence. So in order to prove an associate company, you should be having a significant influence in another company. How the significant influence word has been defined under law? It says Section 2 subsection 6 defines that significant influence means you're having 20% of the total voting power or control of the business decisions. If you're just having 15% of the share capital decisions, then it is not an associate company, neither it is a holding company. And in the same example, if I tell you that A Limited is holding 60% of the share capital in B Limited. If A Limited is holding 60% of the share capital of B Limited, then what is the relationship between A and B Limited? Are they associate company or what are they companies? Arshdeep, what did not you understand? You can ask it, Bacha, and others who have given super answers. I'm so happy to read your answers, children. First time you have understood holding and subsidiary in the first session only so clearly. That's great. Pranav, Varda, Shivani, Ziba, Hindu, Gunjan, Patindya, Abhinav, Sidra, Bhargavi, Bibuhu, Keshav, Ankit, all the answers are correct, Bacha. Sanjana, Rekha, Harshid, absolutely correct. Layer of subsidiaries. Khushi Namdev, good. Narinder, correct. Now give me the answer if A Limited is holding 60% of the share capital in B Limited. So what kind of control relationship is established? Excellent. Now B is subsidiary of A. Pranav Khanna, bilkul theek keh rahe ho. Anjana, Ronit, Syed Majid, Ekta Tiwari, Lakshita. Absolutely everyone is correct. Ma'am, now A Limited is a holding company and B is a subsidiary company. So 20% तक वाला relationship में हमें लेस देन 50% वाले रिलेशनशिप में हमें एसोसिएट कंपनी देखनी है. अगर मैं बोलती कि वी आर जस्ट होल्डिंग 40%, if A Limited is holding 40% in B Limited, then their associate company. If more than 50% of the share capital, then they become holding and subsidiary. Clear हो गया? So public and private we have done from presentation also. More than total voting powers. Some examples of subsidiaries I have given to you in my presentation. And we have also done subsidiary. Subsidiary will also become my subsidiary. Okay, and this is the associate company. Joint venture has to be remembered. If we are having any joint undertaking for the net assets, then also it will be an associate company. Now let's do certain MCQs, children, which you really enjoy doing. I think we have done this one. Let's start from this one. Test your knowledge. Answer number 4. Read the question. What is the maximum number of members under a private company? 50, 150, 200 or no limit? First, we'll do the MCQs and then you can ask your queries. Rohini, we will do the types of share capital, then you'll understand this one. Absolutely correct. All of you are correct. You have sent the correct answer, children. 200 is the limit. We have also done the example of excluding past and present employees. So I hope my students know now that any employees are to be excluded and maximum limit of 200 has to be seen. What are the minimum number of members in a private and public company? Read the question carefully and answer. Himanshu Pathak, if you can send me the content, page number 5.4. After this question, I'll open. Meanwhile, you can send me the content, what is written over there. Very nice. Mohammad Hassan, Hadia, Bhavna, Sidra, Jia, Arisha Nas, Arshdeep, Rohini, Monu, Tejashri, Manvi, Pranav, Khushi, Gunjan, all of you are correct. Saheshpreet, Satya, Ashfiya, all of you are correct, children. How many minimum number of members? 2 in case of a private company and 7 in case of a public company. Examiner will not give you such MCQs, but he can give you descriptive case studies in which these questions will be asked. And for having a significant influence, how much percentage of the share capital or business decisions needs to be seen? At least 2%, at least 10%, at least 2.5% or at least 20%. What should be the correct answer? What should be the correct answer for the 6th one? Yes, Himanshu Pathak, but here we are talking about the company controlling the share capital in other company. Excellent. 6 का आंसर है 6D, 20% of the share capital. We just did this. And for holding and subsidiary relationship, 50% has to be remembered. For associate company, significant influence, 20% have to be remembered. All right, now children, if you have any queries, you can ask me queries. One child is asking something on page number 5.4. I'm just taking it out and others can ask their queries if they want to ask anything. We have done huge information today. You all are requested to read company limited by shares, by guarantee, as well as OPC is very important topic. We'll try doing some case studies and case laws also next time. 5.4, where are you asking? What is your question? Children, don't ask me to find out the lines and questions. Why don't you ask these straight away the question? Somebody has written, ma'am, on page number 5.4, can you please explain second line? Which line you want me to explain? There are so many lines. Okay. Please ask your respective query on this page number, whatever you were asking, artificial legal person. The directors cannot control the affair. It acts as an agency. I think this is what you meant, but they are not the agent of the members. So children, in partnership, we have done that we are acting as an agency, relationship is adapting. But this is not the case of company. Company is different, artificial legal person. So company get its own statute, company has its own status and members are different. Directors are not controlling the affairs, means they're only acting as its agency. They're only running the affairs of the company. They're not the agent of the members. The way we were having agency relationship between partners, they are not agents of the members. There is no agency principal relationship existing between the members and directors. This is what it means. All right. Yes, Mr. MD, public company का subsidiary भी उसका public company ही होगा. Yes, Vibhu, who person can open an OPC and also can be a nominee in one OPC. Okay, Fatimi Mathul is asking the conditions for conversion. So conversion of OPC has now been removed, but automatically child OPC is a single person. The moment you become two people, it will be a normal private limited company. So it has been omitted. The conversion thing has been omitted now. Earlier it was given in your old study material. Ishan, for the joint venture, you simply have to remember that if you're jointly holding the net assets of the company, then it's a joint venture where you have undertaken the joint ownership. In that case also, it will be considered as the associate company. Thank you so much, Miss Tanishka Kumari. Thank you, Miss Rekha. I'm glad you enjoyed it and you liked the teaching. Thank you so much. Thank you, Himanshu Pathak. I'm glad your point is clear now. Thank you, Mr. MD. Conversion of OPC has been omitted, children. You don't have to do that. Yes, Kunjan Devi. Now, if I'm exceeding 7 members, it becomes public company. For OPC, minimum 1, maximum 1. Definitely, Varda, holding company can be private company, public company, any company. The only thing is that if any public company is trying to hold the private limited company, then that private limited company will also be considered as a public company. Sahil incorporate means when it is incorporated means when it is registered. So when we do the registration of company in the next session, you'll understand about the incorporation. So Manvi Khanna again, page number 5.35. Which question? What do you want to ask? Send me what you want to ask. Thank you, Mr. Harshad Bhutani. This means a lot. Thank you, Isha. Thank you, Ziba. Thank you, children. I'm so happy to read all these comments that you have enjoyed the class. Even I'm going to miss all of you, Shruti Tiwari. On Friday, we are meeting for the last class. Thank you, Babuhu. Yes, Balasajan Lakshmi, if given a chance, I would love to take your separate doubt sessions also. But unfortunately, Friday we are meeting. So I'll try to take up as many doubts as I can and we'll also wind up the syllabus. Okay. Thank you, Ekta. Thank you, Lisa. So I will note down all these points that you're sending. Page 3.56, question B. So the next class we can open up and take up these points. Let me just note down your questions. Question 5 on page number 5.35. 3.56, question 8. Okay, Manvi, Harshit, I've noted on your questions. Yes, Pratindya. Private companies holding, no, it will never be considered. It's only the concept of public company where your subsidiary is a private company. It will also be considered as the public company. All right, children, I can just read the thank you and nice messages. I can't find any more queries. I hope you enjoyed the class. Still, I'm here for 1 minute more. If you want to ask anything, feel free to ask. Explain the Supreme Court, page 5.8. Okay, Miss Lakshita, I have noted down that point. In the next class, we'll take that point. Mr. Rajni J, you cannot leave any page of study material. Each and everything has to be done. You cannot say what is important, what is to be left. Examiner can ask you questions from anywhere, okay? So no leaving anything. Thank you, Miss Anjana. Thank you, Miss Siri Guwari. Definitely, Mr. Himanshu Patel. All the PPTs of Partnership and Companies Act, all the chapters along your MCQs tests will be uploaded. Partnership has already been uploaded on portal. I'll just get it checked at the administration level why it is not being visible. Miss Saima, feel free to ask your question. Where is your question? Thank you, Rajnikant. Corporate whale. Isha Pandit, corporate whale theory, we have already discussed that company is different from shareholders. There are only 5 cases where the corporate whale is lifted. Lifting of corporate whale means the cases in which the company and shareholders will be treated as one. Yes, Pooja Kumari, the amendment is for the upper limit that has been given. Thank you, Anjana. Okay. Okay, Saima. We have to talk to the institute for that. I'll try checking it out if we can take the revision class. Thank you, Harshit Bhutani. Thank you, Seheshpreet, Tanishka. Yes, holding can be a private company. Definitely, Tanishka, it can be. Five cases of corporate whale. So you have to refer to the previous recorded lecture. I cannot explain all the cases again. Simply remember, whenever you're going through those cases, you have to remember that whenever the lifting of corporate whale is happening, those are the cases in which the company and shareholders will be treated as one. Means you cannot take the shield and cover yourself if you're trying to be trading with any alien enemy, if you're trying to do any kind of fraud or cheating, you are building the subsidiaries just to bifurcate your profits, then law will lift the corporate veil and all the directors and shareholders who are behind the company, who are running the company, will be treated as one. Okay. All right. Thank you, students. Thank you, Bhargavi. Thank you, Ankit Mishra. No, sections are not compulsory, Mohammed Hassan. All right, children, be prepared for the last class on Friday. And if you have any doubts, I've noted 3-4 questions that you have sent. I'll try to take them up in the next class and wind up the syllabus in the next class. Thank you, students. See you soon. Goodbye.